what we're going to do is I'm going to jump into my elevator as well, just so to simulate what happens. Yes, Mitch is already in.
Join us in our elevator.
Yes. Mitch's elevator is a little bit more luxurious than mine, as you can tell. But what we're going to do is we're going to introduce ourselves, and Mitch will just kick off. He'll introduce himself, and we'll have 1 minute for you to give your pitch. Okay, Jared? So what we're going to do as well, just to kind of give us a little bit of a timing guideline, I do have a timer that's going to start right when you start talking. Okay, so everyone else can do it. We're going to try and keep it in time, right? And that's pretty much it. Mitch, do you want to give any thoughts before we kick off? Any feedback from you or words of wisdom?
Relax and enjoy yourself.
Yes.
You know your story. It's just a matter of telling your story well, and that's what we're here to figure out.
Indeed. So with that, Mitch, I'll over to you to kick off the elevator pitch. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So Jared, I'm about to ride up in this elevator. I hear some good things about Gaggle Social. Tell me what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, hi, Mitch. My name is Jared Tang. I'm a former tech recruiter and the CEO of Gaggle Social. Thanks for asking me about how our enterprise software dedicated professional social network is revolutionizing the way we hire for technology. Gaggle Social is seeking $2.5 million in exchange for 10% equity of our business. With there being so many complex requirements and dynamic systems, it's very difficult to use general purpose job boards to identify suitable tech talent, which is why we built Gaggle Social, specifically for the purpose of contracting and hiring technology professionals and managed service providers. Our platform significantly reduces the length, cost, and complexity of the hiring process, which we achieve through functionality such as our skills matrix, reverse auctions, as well as way more. And unlike our competitors, Indeed and LinkedIn, which offer one-size-fits-all functionality, our company is dedicated entirely to the enterprise software space, allowing us to provide you with an environment that's dedicated and allows you to really streamline your goals. So stop wasting your time using general purpose, bloated job boards and turn to the streamlined. Oh man, I messed up that one.
That's okay. Just finish off.
Don't worry about it.
And look towards the enterprise software dedicated professional social network that allows you to customize your enterprise.
Got it. Thank you. You were close to time. You were slightly over, but
you got in your head.
I did.
Yeah.
I think I started
Mitch,
off okay.
Mitch,
and then
do you want to go first or shall I, Mitch? What are your thoughts?
I've been talking with Jared about this. We talked for about 45 minutes yesterday discussing. So I'd love to hear your feedback first.
Sure, no problem. And Jared, our goal is to level you up, right? This is like hard, feedback, and anyone in the chat as well. Feel free to provide your feedback as well. Okay. There are some, there are some questions in the chat right now, right? That are coming from, asking more around questions for us, and I'll address them as well. But Jared, you obviously there's, like with every pitch, there's a little bit of practice involved in terms of how you kind of build your story arc, right? For me, I felt that I would have looked at a slightly different story arc, because you start off with, this enterprise social network. The first line that you read, can you say that again? The enterprise. So there was your introduction.
My introduction.
Described it. Yeah.
So yeah,
you described an enterprise social network. Say that again. Enterprise
software professional network.
Yeah. So the thing is it's an interesting concept. But you kind of want to make sure that within the first 10 seconds, they already know it, right? Because you introduced it, you got into how much money you're looking to raise. And I still didn't know exactly what it was, right? I didn't know exactly what it was. I wanted to know what it was first. So that's why usually in an elevator pitch, sometimes it might make sense to have your ask at the tail end. Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
But I feel like, remember, investors are very simple creatures. They want to kind of know what's happening. And you've used the term social network, okay, along with hiring, right, Jared? And I feel like we need to simplify your journey in terms of what you're asking for, in terms of what the platform really is. Because when you bring up social network, the mind goes in one direction, right? When you bring up hiring, and indeed it goes in a kind of different direction. So if you're going to bring it together, you need to kind of bridge that gap in your 1-minute pitch, which might take a little bit of extra time, but that really needs to come through, right? It needs to come through. The other thing is when it comes down to the secret sauce, right? You talked about improving the length of hiring, correct? You said that's kind of your value. Was there another value add, the length of hiring and the quality of hiring, correct?
Yes, I think that's kind of where I stumbled, is that
No, it's okay. No problem. So the length of hiring and the quality of hiring is the holy grail for recruitment, right? We know that. But what I wanted to kind of pull out of this is, you talked about skills, and there was a skills component and a reverse auction component. I think it's important to kind of map out what the secret sauce is and how effective it is. Does that make sense? So, ensuring that the skills assessment thing, what was the word you used, Jared? There was a skills matrix. Skills matrix, right? Skills matrix and reverse auction. When you said reverse auction, my brain went somewhere else, right? I was like, wait a second. I started thinking about commerce again, right? And then I'm like, no, he might be doing reverse auction and some sort of bidding element around the candidates. Am I right?
Yes.
And so part of that is that competition around finding the right people and hiring the right people. And so that secret sauce needs to be really flushed out, right? Because I want to know, because there's a lot of people that have done job boards, right? And I kind of wanted to understand how the social network component, how the reverse auction component, and your skills matrix, which seems like, for me, skills matrix seems like something that other people might have thought of as well. But how do you package it together? And how much does it improve the length to hire, the quality of hire, right? And how does that rack up against the current industry norms, right? Because I'm not an expert in HR hiring, right? I'm just a general investor. And so I wanted to know that, right? And, you talk about the enterprise, right? Which is exciting, right? That's kind of like, enterprise, the enterprise businesses hiring technology leadership. I was curious about, once this is all done, with the money that you're asking for, right? You've asked for, I think, $2.5 million, right? How are you going to use that money? And maybe it's towards the tail end, how are you going to use this money to elevate your business, right? And make a real dent, right? How are you going to win in this round? How are you going to, you have a minimal, you have your minimal viable product, right? There's also the minimal viable market, right? That core market that you're going to conquer with this round of funding, right? And that's kind of how I would be looking at it, right? So before Mitch's feedback's in, Mitch, would it be okay if he just gives us and the audience just a little bit of knowledge about how the skills, like the secret sauce, if you don't mind? Jared, can you give us some feedback, please?
Absolutely. So the skills matrix is an easy to use type of format and table that allows somebody who is visiting a profile to understand what this person's technical experience is in before even looking at their resume. So you're cutting out the component and adding a preface to even the cover letter at that point, right? So you can make a determination on looking at this person's resume before even 2 seconds of actually entering their profile.
Okay. Is it just on skills, or are we also looking at some of the cultural fit components, right? We live in a hybrid world. Working hybrid with people like Mitch Ratcliffe is amazing. Do you know what I mean? It's just seamless, right? But there are some other people, especially in a technical background, that might find it challenging. Is your skills matrix a holistic view on the person, including their their work habits and some of the other components, because they might be a great developer, but need to have a lot of in-person hand-holding and stuff like that.
Yes. So the skills matrix doesn't have that holistic approach, but we do have other functionality on the profile pages that allow you to pick that, to say, listen, I need wheelchair accessibility. I am an in-person type of professional first. I like to be remote mostly. I'm a traveler, and those types of things that you can add into your cultural section, which is also located next to your benefits section, where you also depict what you need in your lifestyle to effectively accept the position.
Understood. Got it. And coming back to the value proposition with the skills matrix and the reverse auction, can you just tell me about the reverse auction and anything else, and then tell me, I want to make sure we get this sentence right. Okay. Sure. In your pitch, whether it's in the beginning, middle, close to the end, you're going to be able to state the features quickly, what they are, how it's packaged together, and how does it create value for a recruiter, right? How much time does it save, and how does it improve? Because in the startup world, 50% of hires are bad hires, right? How do you improve that? I want you to just make sure we get that soundbite out.
Okay, absolutely. So to start with the reverse auction question. So the reverse auction is going to allow you to kind of access it almost like a regular auction, virtual auction approach, but we're actually working backwards. So the hiring manager would set, this is as much as I want to pay. And the people who are similarly skilled based on their skills matrix inputs are going to be able to enter this auction and then compete with each other to offer the lowest price. And then the hiring manager is going to be able to look at this and say, okay, great. This person fits my need, also fits my budget and my other requirements that I have. I'm going to select this person. So they can then streamline by booking an interview right through Gaggle Social and then have an interview.
Got it. And back to the value. If they do all this right, Jared, what value do they create? How much, how do you improve the length, lower the length of hiring and improve the quality? How do you do that? What do you think? And I know you're starting out, but what is your goal?
Absolutely. So by shortening the very beginning entry processes of actual skill evaluation, which is pretty much some of the longest portion of that, is identifying who the right people to interview are, and then actually spending the time interviewing those people. So by giving you the option to interview those people right the first time, the right people for the first time, it gives you an opportunity to then shorten that time. But our platform is designed to give you all the tools you would need to be your own technical recruiter from any standpoint. So you don't have to worry about leveraging third-party recruiters in the process, which is what the norm is now, is that you end up spending all your time and trying to find the candidate. Then you spend more money trying to hire a recruiter to bring on more people. We're cutting $18,000 pretty much off of the average price.
Got it. So would you change the paradigm where, a CTO themselves can become a great recruiter? Is that what you're doing here? Right?
That's the goal. The goal is to give them every tool they need.
Yeah, and that's something that I would consider including, right? Because it's about what starts to happen, right? And so when just to kind of walk you through kind of the story arc that I might do, and I'll hand it over to Mitch for his feedback as well, is I would start off by, when you have your enterprise network for hiring, right? You can state what it is, but more importantly, coming into the fact that with 15 years of recruiting experience, you realize that recruiting is kind of broken. And what you've done is you've taken all the elements that a recruiter needs to be very good at and put it in the hands of the chief technology officer or the C-suite of any company. And through your reverse auction and your matrix, your skills matrix, what you're able to do is put all the information at hand and enable them to hire people 50% faster with a better success rate in terms of them staying on for at least 6 to 12 months. And you enable them to do this at 1/10 the cost that people are currently doing. right? And through that, you're looking to now grow this, and you're revolutionizing and changing the paradigm, and you're kind of a hiring 3.0 company now. Jared, do you get what I'm saying? Indeed and ZipRecruiter are 2.0 companies. You know that, right? There was people before that, right? The job streets of the world, Job Central. I don't know where monster.com, Mitch, is, but you and I have seen at least 3 cycles, Mitch.
Yeah, 3 generations of this.
Right. And so part of this, Jared, is to bring yourself out and say, hey, I'm doing jobs 3.0, recruiting 3.0, right? And this is what it's going to look like, right? Okay. And that's kind of the story arc. And then I would go in to say, hey, I need capital to make this happen. And I want to use the $2.5 million to ensure that I can onboard and commercialize the first 500 enterprise leaders that are looking to recruit, and drive me to ensure that we're moving on the right path for commercialization. Okay, and that's the story arc that I would work on. Right, Mitch, I'll hand it over to you, sir. Go ahead.
Let me ask a question real quick. So
go ahead.
You're saying
Sure.
to put the ask at the end, the tail end.
What I'm saying is, you need to ask. So, Jared, are you married?
No.
Okay. So, Jared, let's make it simple. So, Mitch and I we're both happily married, but we're gonna have fun with this, right? Okay, Jared.
Okay.
When you go ask out a girl, right? You gotta you gotta talk a little bit, right? Now you're a handsome fella. You're a handsome fella, right? Okay. But the thing is you always have to you go into a bar and you go talk to a girl. Do you ask her out immediately, or do you have to tell her, hey, who I am? You know what I mean? I remember when I had to ask out girls, I had to go on to my resume because looks didn't solve a lot for me, right? So, you got to give a little bit of your background, a little bit of, you got to tell a couple of jokes, at least, offer to buy some coffee, let them know about who you are, and, versus going in for a kill, right? So I think that they need to know exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you plan on doing it before you go to them to ask for the capital. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? Because the last thing they're thinking about is how it fits their investment criteria. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a critical path, right, Jared? And so that's why I think just asking at the end might be advantageous. You can't ask for something unless they know you, correct?
It's true.
I mean, you might have had different results with girls, so maybe that's the problem, right? But you know what I mean? If you could just walk in and, you're a very lucky guy. But the point, more importantly, and at least in the startup world, it's good to kind of fully flesh that out before it kind of comes out and makes it happen, right? Mitch, over to you, sir.
Well, I haven't been on a date in 37 years. So, I think you started off right. You anchored it in the fact that you are a tech recruiter, that you've got this experience, but then you declared a revolution. And frankly, every time I hear somebody declare a revolution without giving me a clear definition, I just almost shut down. It's a filter for me. So what I would have started off with is start from insight. We help collect the information that both the talent and the hiring manager needs in order to make a successful connection. And that we can do that in a way that lowers the cost and time by 50%. That's a great anchor opening. So you've got 2 sides of this market. You've got the talent. How do you help them manage and enhance their presence in the marketplace so that they get the best opportunity to win projects and jobs? And to the point that Ash raised a moment ago, hiring has changed radically over the past 20 years. We've seen 3-4 generations of this stuff. You're the 4th. How are you going to be different? And I think that is really by helping the talent articulate the details of their skills and experience. So not only do they write in a particular language, but they built the following things, that there are ways to go look at their work and see what they've done, or have it validated by records of previous successful projects or hires that they've gone through. So, some of this stuff is what you would see on LinkedIn, but you're reorganizing and rethinking it so that it has more utility for particularly the hiring manager. They're the ones who's paying the freight. So thinking about, again, the arc of the story, you're trying to sell and close. And what you really need to do is elicit the next question. So I would tell the story of, we're going to change this. I've got the two sides of the market. I understand how to bring them together. One of the problems, and this is where you got stuck in your head, you started thinking about where you hadn't met the goals that you were implying that you could deliver. You started thinking about, well, they might ask about this. Well, don't worry about that. Focus on telling your story and to elicit the next question rather than convince them that they should invest in you right now. I think that's your big psychological challenge as I listen to you present. You have a question? Or I thought you put your hand up. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, it's somebody walking in the background. So the thing is, tech hiring is complex. You help bring this stuff together, the information about the recruitee and the recruiter, and you help them and will continue to evolve that experience over time. So you filter, validate skills and accomplishments to deliver faster, confident hiring. And now you've painted the picture. You don't have to get into the details of, for instance, the skills matrix, the reverse auction. Those are buzzwords until you have the time to have the deeper conversation. But you can talk to the fact that you have tools that help people make those connections seamlessly. Again, it's not a comprehensive story. It's a 1-minute summary. And then I would try to create a comparable. So at the end of describing quickly what you're doing, I might use, and I wrote this down as an idea, the Calendly of hiring. Calendly has changed the way that we schedule meetings radically. It's simple, it's easy, it's self-service. To Ash's point about the CTO potentially doing the hiring themselves. Yeah. So put a frame around what you have described rather than trying to get into the details of what you're describing. And then you have a compelling story that at the end, when you say I'm raising $2.5 million, and I would not declare the percentage of value that they're going to get, because that is ultimately what they are going to want to negotiate with you. And by putting that 10% on, now I know your valuation, and I am starting to think about whether it's worth it rather than asking questions about your product and service in order to understand its ultimate value. You're trying to answer a question that they don't need to answer at that point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So again, give them the big picture, clarify and contextualize what Gaggle Social does that's different than the rest of the market. And that's recognizing that work has changed. It's often remote, it's hybrid, it's project-based rather than employment-based in a lot of contexts. That, I think, is where your opportunity to address the workers' ability to work more flexibly and in multiple configurations simultaneously. They might have 2 or 3 projects going or 2 or 3 fractional roles going at the same time over the course of a year or two. Those are the kinds of things that address the new market conditions that are emerging as we move past the pandemic and the real introduction of digital ubiquitous connectivity.
Powerful. Jared, what are your thoughts, sir? What are your thoughts?
Looks like I need to go back to the drawing board and
you're a lot closer than you think. You're a lot closer than you think. And we talked about this a little yesterday. It's about breaking this down into a series of simple 1-sentence statements that you recombine based on the context of the conversation. If you had another minute here, you could go into very briefly the role of the skills matrix. And I wouldn't go into, I think the reverse auction is complicated.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to.
But you have a way of saying the skills matrix allows us to connect the recruitee to the recruiter with the right economics. And then you don't have to explain the rest of it. You just describe the outcome. They'll get the best price.
Okay.
Yes.
I think a question that I have is, do you guys have any exercises or tips or pointers for nerves? I mean, I think that's really what gets in my way the most.
Yeah.
How nervous I get.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, Mitch and I have gone through the journey. And Mitch, I'm speaking on your behalf when I say that when we probably first started, we also had a lot of nerves, Mitch, right?
Oh, heck, I still have a lot of nerves.
Yeah. But we just kind of try to mask the opportunity, Jared. And so part of this, you've asked more of a psychological question, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to be put on the spot on a regular basis now, right? You're going to be asked to go pitch your idea to a crowd of 500 people at a tech conference, all the way through to putting yourself in front of, maybe one of the most successful investors. You're going to be thrown into those environments. The short answer around this is, with your elevator pitch, once you've mapped out your story arc, you just have to practice it like 50 times. Just get it into your system, right? And I'll explain.
It's short stop taking the ground balls 1,000 times to understand how to throw the first. Build the muscle memory.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean rehearse one version of this. It means rehearse the individual components. Yeah. So that you can put them together in different ways. And, think of that minute as 5-10-second opportunities and a close. So what do you say in the first 10 seconds that anchors them in that? I'm a tech recruiter, and we're going to help people start hiring from Insight. The second 10 seconds is work has changed. We support somebody trying to make a living as a project or an employment-based worker. We help the HR. The next 10 seconds is we help the HR professional find and validate the information about people so that they don't waste time interviewing those that aren't a good fit. Mm-hmm. Now you're 30 seconds in, but you've also described how your system works, or at least what it produces right? So now practice those 10-second chunks and think about what would happen if you had another 10 seconds to describe deeper about the skills matrix. The skills matrix lets it do X. And like I said yesterday when we were talking, write all this down and write it and read it out loud until you are comfortable with what it says, and then start to memorize it in the sense that you're memorizing pieces of a script that you're going to play different versions of over time. And that's something that's changed a lot, even over the last 30 or 40 years, because of the way we communicate now. We used to communicate in long, lazy form. Now, because of the attention deficit that we all face, we have to be very compact. We know everybody has an 8-second attention span. So it's rethinking the combination of all the different pieces of your story and how you put them together, so that if it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes that you have, you know how you're going to tell your story. And a lot of that muscle memory of rehearsal is not so that you can spit it out in a particular order or fashion. It's so that you can listen to what the investor is saying when they ask you questions and have your response ready. Oh, I know the answer to that question. Then you're not thinking about the last word you said. You're thinking about the next word you're going to say. And you know what? Do a Dale Carnegie course. It's a good investment.
Yeah. With Jared, on just to kind of take this to the next level, what I found is once you kind of get your practice in, right, you've pitched 50 times to yourself, you'll find that the pitch itself will enter your subconscious mind, Jared. It'll enter there. And once it enters there, when you come into a room, right, you'll be able to focus your energy and attention on owning the room. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Coming back to the pickup lines with girls, right? Okay, right? If you have the pickup line and you know what you're going to say, and you have, all of the, the pickup experience mapped out for the person, you're focusing on looking at that person deep in their eyes, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Connecting, right, Jared? That's the thing. Right. And that's what you need to be able to do. Once you kind of get it into that flow, the nerves will always be there. Okay. That's the reality. The nerves will always be there. But part of it is, and I gave a story arc earlier, right? I mapped it out, actually how I would map it out. You put that together, you pitch it, and you could be in a situation where every single time, you're at least connecting to them, right? What you're saying is in autopilot. And what you're doing is you're looking at the audience, you're looking at the person you're pitching to, you're seeing their body language is what makes their eyes, open up, and you capture that. And that's when you're winning, Jared. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so with practice and in this technique, you go from the whole idea of just pitching to winning, right? And at the very least, the person should turn around and say, oh my God, that seems very compelling. Let me introduce you to somebody else. That's the least they'll do, right? Because they're like, oh my God, this guy knows it and he owns it. Okay.
Right.
And investors can spot that confidence, Jared, right? Which is also critically important. Okay. And so that's my view, Jared, right? Anything else, Jared? Tell me a little bit, some of your takeaways today. It'll be good just to, Mitch, is it okay? Let's see
what do you think you need to work on based on what we just...
Well, I think I need to obviously work on my arc, right? My story has to be a little bit, not only, I guess, more compelling. I felt like the way you described it, it sounded like it needed to be a little bit more natural too. It kind of felt like, looking back at what I have, it's a little stiff, right? Comparatively. And that stiff rigidness may be what actually is kind of messing up, where I'm at, because I'm not as natural as I could be. I'm not speaking the way I normally would.
And no one is. They work to achieve them.
So that way it's natural. And then to turn that off a little bit also was that I need to kind of explain a little bit more my secret sauce. It's not enough to say my functionality as much as it is to say what the benefit my functionality offers, right?
The problem and the benefit. Yeah, the problem and the benefit.
I can go ahead and I can go on and on and on about how much functionality we do have that's different, but without adding some of those components about what makes it different, they're just words, right? And you need to be impactful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jared, we'll look forward to your next version. We're going to hear it again through the Hyper Accelerator program. We'll hear it on the tail end of the program, but hopefully you found value today. Thank you very much. And we look forward to being part of the Gaggle Social success as well. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback.
Nice to ride the elevator with you.
Indeed.